Tonight, we begin by leaving the only sky we have ever truly known. The sky above Earth feels familiar to us, even when it is full of stars, even when it stretches far beyond anything we can touch. It still feels like home. There is air here, warmth here, weather, color, sound, oceans, clouds, and the quiet certainty of gravity beneath every step. For all of human history, every dream of the universe began under this sky. Every question, every myth, every telescope, every wish cast into the night rose upward from one small world wrapped in light and air. And yet, beyond that familiar blue, beyond the clouds and the moon and the glow of our own sun, there are other worlds, worlds with no forests, no birds, no rain, worlds of black oceans, frozen stone, silent rings, and distant stars that never warm the ground below them. Worlds no human has ever stood upon. And tonight, we will move slowly toward them. Not quickly, not with the noise of engines or the urgency of discovery, but gently, as if drifting in a dream, as if the universe itself were opening, one silent horizon at a time. Imagine the Earth now, from far above. The continents are dim beneath veils of cloud. The oceans reflect a faint and shifting light, and the atmosphere, so thin from a distance, shines like a delicate blue line around the curve of the world. From here, everything seems calm. No borders are visible, no cities can be heard, no human voices rise into the dark. Only a bright planet turning slowly in silence. This is where we begin. At the edge of the familiar, at the last place where the sky still belongs to us. Above the atmosphere, the darkness changes. It is no longer the darkness of night as we know it. It is deeper than that. Colder, clearer, more ancient. Here, the stars do not merely appear. They surround. And in that vastness, Earth becomes something small and bright, a warm memory suspended in an ocean with no shore. As we drift farther away, the world below begins to lose its detail. The clouds soften into pale motion. The continents blur into shadow. The blue line of the atmosphere fades. And what remains is not the Earth of maps or countries or names, but a sphere of light, beautiful, fragile, alone. There is something strangely peaceful about seeing our world this way. From a distance, the human story grows quiet. All the speed of life, all its noise and ambition, all its fear and urgency seem to fold inward, and the planet becomes what it has always been in the larger darkness. A small illuminated refuge, moving through the night. This is the first truth of the journey, that the universe does not begin far away. It begins the moment the familiar starts to disappear, the moment the sky above us is no longer our sky, the moment we understand that comfort is local, but wonder is everywhere, beyond Earth, beyond the moon, beyond the planets we know by name. The cosmos is filled with landscapes no eye has ever seen directly, not human eyes, not with breath in the lungs and weight in the feet. Only instruments, equations, imagination, and light traveling impossible distances through silence. And still, those unseen places shape us, because the mind is always pulled toward the horizon, toward what is distant, toward what is hidden, toward what has never been touched. Perhaps that is why the night sky has always felt larger than a view. It feels like an invitation, not only to explore, but to let go, to leave behind the need for everything to be familiar, to accept that beauty does not require welcome, that a world can be magnificent and still be utterly unmade for us. As Earth recedes behind us, the surrounding dark becomes more complete. The moon passes in silence, a pale companion marked by old impacts and endless stillness. Beyond it, the sunlight sharpens across emptiness, and the stars, once scattered points above a sleeping planet, begin to feel like structure, like a hidden architecture of distance and time. Ahead of us lie frozen moons, black seas, crystal deserts, eclipsed horizons, and wandering planets with no sun at all. But for now, we are only leaving, only crossing that quiet threshold between the world we know and the worlds we do not. There is no sudden boundary, no gate, no sign, no final line where home ends and mystery begins. There is only gradual distance, a soft pulling away, a silence becoming wider, and the feeling, almost impossible to describe, that the universe is not empty. Now, the familiar warmth of Earth is far behind us. Ahead, the light grows thinner, colder, more distant, and in that colder light, the first silent worlds begin to appear. Frozen moons, worlds of ice, mineral snow, ancient fractures, and horizons that seem to glow from within. They are not empty, they are simply still. Imagine drifting above one of these moons. Below you, endless plains of blue-white ice stretch beyond sight. Long cracks run through the surface like veins in ancient stone. Ridges rise in slow waves, and pale reflected light moves softly across everything. On Earth, ice is often temporary, but here, ice becomes landscape, structure, memory, cliffs of frozen mineral, canyons of crystal, shelves of frost untouched by rain, rivers, or living wind. Only the long pressure of cold and time. There is something beautiful about a world that shines without warmth, a world illuminated by distance, by a weak, far sun, by the glow of a giant planet overhead, by auroras moving silently across a black sky. Here, even color feels different. Silver, blue, pearl, faint violet, transparent cyan, colors that feel less like weather and more like sleep. Some frozen moons may hide oceans beneath their crusts, dark waters buried under kilometers of ice, water that never sees the sky, never feels daylight. And above those hidden depths, the surface remains calm, a sealed world, beautiful from above, unknowable below. That contrast gives these places their power. On the outside, stillness. On the inside, possibility. Imagine a canyon cut into one of these moons. Its walls rise like crystal cathedrals, sharp in places, smooth in others, layered with translucent ridges that catch the light in pale bands. The floor below is dark and reflective. Above it, the sky is the pure black of space. Stars remain visible even over the bright ice, steady, cold, innumerable. And over the horizon, perhaps a giant ringed planet hangs in silence, its reflected light spilling across the frozen terrain below. What would it feel like to stand there? No wind, no trees, no ocean, no birds, no voices, no trace of the familiar living world. Only your own presence and the immense silence of a place that was never made for sound. Perhaps that is why frozen moons feel so dreamlike. They remove almost everything we associate with life, and yet they remain astonishingly beautiful. Not despite their stillness, but because of it. Attention becomes quieter here. You begin to notice the curve of the horizon, the faint sparkle of drifting ice, the gentle movement of pale light along a ridge, the sacred calm of a landscape that asks nothing from you. Some frozen worlds may glow with auroras, curtains of green, blue, and violet moving above the ice in complete silence. Light without thunder, motion without wind. Under those auroras, crystal forests may seem to rise from the ground. Not forests of wood and leaves, but towers of frozen mineral, translucent spires, luminous edges, long shadows over glittering frost. The landscape becomes part geology, part architecture, part dream. And yet, It belongs only to physics, chemistry, temperature, and time. The universe does not need intention to create wonder. It builds cathedrals out of ice, palaces out of fracture lines, temples out of reflected light, and it does so in absolute silence. There are no footprints here, no ruins, no lamps in distant windows. These worlds remain what they have always been: cold, luminous, and complete. As we drift over them, we begin to understand something new about beauty, that it is not always warm, not always welcoming, not always alive. Sometimes beauty is distant, sometimes severe, sometimes it lives in surfaces so cold and quiet that no human breath could survive there. And still, we are drawn to it. So drift a little longer above these moons of silent light. Let the icy plains pass beneath you. Let the crystal canyons open and fade. Let the pale auroras move through the dark. Because farther ahead, beyond these frozen horizons, another kind of world is waiting. A darker one. A world of quiet shores, black water, and seas that reflect unfamiliar skies. Far beyond the frozen brightness of the silent moons, the landscape begins to change. The light is dimmer here, softer, filtered through strange atmospheres. The hard brilliance of ice gives way to something darker, something deeper. Now we arrive at the shores of black oceans, seas that do not shine with the familiar blue of Earth, waters that reflect alien moons, distant rings, and stars seen through amber haze. On Earth, an ocean feels alive. It moves with weather, sunlight, and wind. But here, these oceans seem quieter, heavier, almost secretive. Their surfaces absorb more light than they return. They do not glitter in the same way. Instead, they draw the eye inward, into darkness and reflection. Imagine a shoreline on a moon where the sea is made not of water, but of methane or ethane. A liquid ocean beneath a sky of haze. The horizon soft and distant. The air filled with dim amber light. The waves are gentle, slow, almost reluctant. And when they reach the shore, everything feels muted, as if the world itself has chosen silence. Above that sea, perhaps a giant ringed planet hangs low in the sky. Its reflected light stretches across the black surface in trembling lines. Silver in one moment, copper in the next, then fading into darkness again. There is something hypnotic about a dark ocean, because the mind expects water to reveal light, to scatter it, brighten it, animate it. But black water behaves differently. It becomes a mirror for distant things, a keeper of dim reflections, a surface that gives shape to the sky without ever becoming bright. The coast becomes more mysterious, the horizon more uncertain. At times, it is difficult to tell where the sea ends and the darkness begins. Along the shoreline, ice cliffs may rise from the sea, not white cliffs, but dark amber and gray. Their edges softened by haze. Methane pools gather in quiet basins between them, still enough to hold the image of the sky. In such a place, even small motion feels significant. A slow ripple, a drifting cloud of mist, a change in the reflection of a distant planet. The world teaches the eye to notice less and feel more. That is the peace of alien coasts. They reduce the scene to a few essential things: light, surface, distance, silence. And in that reduction, the mind becomes calm. There are worlds where oceans may exist beneath thick atmospheres, worlds where black water extends under a red sky, or beneath a pale white sun too distant to warm the shore. Some may have tides driven by giant nearby planets, slow breathing motions across vast basins. Others may hold seas so cold and heavy that every wave seems delayed, as if time itself moves more carefully there. Imagine standing above a methane coast beneath orange haze, Far out over the water, light from the sky gathers in faint bands, not enough to brighten the sea, only enough to reveal its texture, its broad, slow movement, its immense patience. No gulls circle overhead, no surf crashes against rock, no scent of salt rises from the shore. Everything familiar has been removed, and still, the sea remains a sea, a flat horizon, a moving surface, a place where thought begins to slow. Perhaps that is why these worlds feel so dreamlike. They preserve the shape of something we know, the coast, the tide, the distant shore, but they fill it with a different substance, a different light, a different silence. There may be glowing mineral formations along the shoreline, small points of turquoise or silver in the haze, like lanterns in a place where no one lives. Elsewhere, the coast may open toward a vast ocean plain. No islands, no visible end. Only a black surface meeting an amber horizon beneath a motionless sky. And somewhere above it all, the shadow of rings crossing slowly over the sea. What would it feel like to remain there for hours? To watch a horizon that never brightens fully, to hear almost nothing, to see each wave arrive with the dignity of something ancient and unhurried. There is beauty in black oceans because they refuse the obvious. They do not reveal themselves quickly. They do not sparkle for attention. They ask the viewer to linger, to allow darkness to become texture, to let dimness become color, to see reflection not as clarity, but as mystery. As we move along these alien shores, we begin to understand another truth of distant worlds, that the universe is not only made of fire and collapse, it is also made of coastlines, of still surfaces. Beyond the black oceans, the light begins to change once more. Now the sky itself becomes unfamiliar, because not every world turns beneath a sun like ours. Some live beneath red stars, some beneath white dwarfs, some beneath two suns at once. And on such worlds, even daylight can feel like a dream. On Earth, sunlight is so familiar that we almost stop seeing it. We know the color of morning, the warmth of late afternoon, the soft blue scatter of daylight. Our eyes were shaped beneath this star, but elsewhere, light speaks differently. Imagine a world orbiting a red dwarf star. In the sky, it glows like a deep ember. Red, copper, crimson. Its light does not flood the landscape in the familiar way. It lingers. It turns mountains and clouds into silhouettes edged with fire. The ground beneath such a sun might shimmer with dark red twilight even at midday. Cloud layers may drift in shades of rust and violet. The shadows would feel softer, but somehow deeper, as if the whole world were lit from the end of a very long evening. There is something calming about a red star sky, perhaps because it feels closer to dusk than to noon, a whole planet suspended inside the last light of an endless day. Now imagine another kind of sun, a white dwarf, the remnant of a larger star, reduced to something compact, dense, and brilliant. Its light would be different entirely. Sharper, paler, more severe, not warm gold, but white radiance with hints of blue and silver. A world beneath such a star might look carved from glass, its deserts reflective, its cliffs outlined with cold precision, every ridge, every crystal edge, every grain of dust rendered with impossible clarity. There would be beauty there, but not softness, the kind of beauty found in stillness and exactness. Shadows would be deep and elegant, the horizon hard and clean, the atmosphere, if there is one, almost metallic in tone. Then there are worlds with two suns, places where the sky carries more than one source of day. Perhaps one star burns gold and the other pale white, or one glows red while the other remains smaller and colder. The result would not simply be more light, it would be stranger light. Light arriving from different angles, Two sets of shadows crossing over dunes and stone, clouds lit unevenly, one edge warm, the other cool, mountains holding lines of brightness that shift in layered patterns. Imagine standing on mirror-like dunes beneath two distant suns, one low and amber, the other high and pale. The surface beneath you reflects both, gold and silver moving across curves of polished sand, the horizon divided between warmth and cold. And in that divided light, the whole world feels almost musical. Some strange suns may never rise high overhead. They may remain low and distant, grazing the horizon for hours or forever, bathing the world in slanting light, drawing out long shadows across plains of glass or frost. The world becomes a study in angle and reflection. In such places, you begin to understand how deeply sunlight shapes emotion. A warm yellow world feels different from a red one, a silver world different from an amber one. A sky lit by two stars does not simply look different. It feels different. It alters the pace of thought, the emotional temperature of the landscape, the quality of silence. That may be why these distant worlds seem so powerful in the imagination. They reveal that beauty in the universe is not only made of shape, but of illumination. The same mountain beneath another star becomes another mountain entirely. The same sea beneath red light becomes darker. The same canyon beneath white light becomes sharper. The same cloud beneath twin suns becomes more mysterious than any cloud on Earth. Elsewhere, light rewrites everything. It changes stone, sea, shadow, color, and even time itself, at least as it is felt. There are worlds where twilight may be the dominant condition of life, not the brief edge between day and night, but the atmosphere of the whole planet. A permanent hour of glowing horizons, of slow red suns, of stars visible through lingering daylight. Such a world would feel endlessly suspended, never fully waking, never fully sleeping, only drifting. As we move through these worlds of altered daylight, we begin to see that a sun is never just a background object. It is the author of the landscape, the hidden painter of every ridge and plain, the quiet force that teaches a world how to glow. So let the strange suns remain above you a little longer. Beyond the worlds lit by strange suns, there are places where day and night no longer move as they do on Earth. Worlds where morning never truly arrives. Worlds where evening never fully ends. Worlds suspended in a single condition of light. These are the planets of permanent twilight. On Earth, our days are shaped by motion. The turning of the planet carries every place through sunrise, noon, sunset, and night. But some worlds may be locked to their stars, turning so precisely that one side always faces the light, while the other remains turned away. One hemisphere in endless day, the other in endless night. And between them, a narrow and astonishing boundary. A region of perpetual twilight. Imagine such a world from above. One side glowing beneath relentless light, the other swallowed by deep black cold. And between them, the line, a vast curved threshold where light softens, where the burning sky gives way to darkness, where frozen mountains may stand beneath a horizon that never changes. This twilight boundary may be the most beautiful place on the planet, because it carries contrast without violence, warmth fading into cold, gold into blue, cloud into starfield, a place where the eye can rest in transition itself. On some worlds, the twilight zone may be narrow. On others, thick atmospheres may scatter light far across the surface, widening the band into broad regions of dim illumination. There, the sky might glow forever in shades of copper, rose, violet, and deep blue. Clouds may linger in permanent sunset, Ridges may cast long shadows that never shift. The stars may remain visible above the dark edge of the horizon, even while the far side of the sky still burns with distant day. There is something profoundly calming about a landscape that never changes its hour. No hurried sunrise, no collapsing evening, no clock hidden in the color of the sky. Only one continuous state of being. Imagine drifting along the twilight line of such a planet. To one side, high clouds blaze in endless sunlight. To the other, a frozen darkness stretches beneath constellations that never set. Below, the terrain is carved by extremes, ridges of ice and black rock, plains of reflective frost, canyons filled with dim haze, perhaps rivers of slow-moving liquid winding through a region cold enough to preserve them, but not still enough to freeze them entirely. The wind, if there is wind, may move in great slow patterns from hot side to cold side, a planetary breathing, heat trying to cross into darkness, cold pushing back toward light. And where those forces meet, the weather itself may become part of the twilight. Not violent in our imagining tonight, but immense, slow, sculptural. Cloud walls glowing at their edges, bands of mist stretching over the ground. A sky forever layered with subtle motion. What would it feel like to stand in such a place? To know that the sun would never rise higher, never slip below the world. To know that the color before you had remained almost unchanged for centuries. Perhaps the mind would loosen its attachment to sequence, to before and after, to the ordinary shape of a day. Perhaps you would stop waiting for something to begin or end, and simply rest inside the hour that never leaves. This may be why permanent twilight feels so dreamlike, because dreams often have their own lighting, neither daylight nor night, but some in-between state where everything seems suspended. A twilight planet would feel like that, a real world carrying the emotional logic of a dream. There may be places where snow falls only in the twilight, where vapor condenses in a narrow global ring, where the same cliffs are touched forever by the same angled light. A whole climate of balance, a whole geography of edges. There is beauty in extremes, the brilliance of the day side, the purity of the night side, but there is often greater beauty in the boundary, in the place where one condition yields slowly to another, where certainty softens, where light becomes atmosphere instead of command. That is what twilight does on Earth for a few moments, and what these planets may preserve forever. An eternal transition, a world made of the gentlest part of the day. As we move across these planets of eternal dusk, we begin to understand another truth of the cosmos, that some of its most beautiful places are not defined by what they have, but by what they never lose. A certain angle of light, a certain tenderness of color, a certain calm between warmth and cold. So remain here a little longer. Beyond the twilight worlds, there are places where the most beautiful landscapes are hidden completely from the sky. Worlds whose greatest mysteries do not lie on the surface, but beneath it, beneath ice, beneath oceans, beneath layers of silence so complete that even sunlight never enters. On Earth, we often think of beauty as something exposed, a mountain under morning light, a coastline at dusk, a forest moving in the wind. But some of the most astonishing places in the universe may be concealed, not absent, only covered. Imagine a moon whose surface appears calm from orbit, a bright shell of fractured ice, long ridges and frozen plains under weak reflected light. Nothing moves quickly there, nothing suggests warmth. And yet far below, under kilometers of ice, an ocean may be breathing in darkness, a hidden sea held warm not by sunlight, but by internal forces, by pressure, motion, chemistry, and the slow heat of the moon itself. Above, silence; below, a world still in motion. There is something moving about that contrast, a surface so still it seems complete, covering depths that never rest. Perhaps that is why buried oceans stir the imagination so strongly. They suggest that beauty does not need to announce itself, that entire worlds may remain hidden for ages, not because they are empty, but because they are quiet. Imagine descending through a crack in the ice. Slowly, the blue-white light of the surface fades above you. The frozen walls become darker, more translucent, streaked with mineral lines and pale trapped bubbles. Then below, the first suggestion of depth appears, a glow in the water. Not bright, only enough to reveal that the darkness is not empty after all. In such oceans, light would behave differently. It would not fall from above in a broad open sky. It would arrive in shafts through fractures, in soft pulses through thin ice, in diffuse silver veils broken by the movement of currents. Elsewhere, it might come from the world itself, from mineral vents, from bioluminescent chemistry, from structures no human eye has ever seen. And in that dimness, the hidden city begins to take shape. Not necessarily a city in the human sense, but immense forms rising from the ocean floor, geometries of shadow and glow, arches disappearing into blue-black depth, columns of faint light drifting upward through water thick with particles, platforms, terraces, walls of dark stone or luminous mineral, a place that feels built, even if no builder is known. What would it be like to witness such a place in complete silence? To drift above structures beneath an icy sea, to watch pale currents move between them, to see light from the cracked ceiling far above broken into trembling beams, every motion slowed by water, every edge softened by depth, every distance made uncertain by haze and darkness. Some hidden cities may not be cities at all, but natural formations so precise they appear intentional. Caverns lined with luminous pillars, submerged cliffs arranged like architecture, great circular basins where warm water rises through cracks in the ocean floor. The universe has a way of building forms that feel designed, even when they are only the patient result of pressure and time. There may be places where bioluminescent currents drift through these oceans, faint living ribbons of blue, green, or silver moving between pillars and under arches. Elsewhere, hydrothermal glow may rise from the floor below, soft amber or pale white light caught in clouds of mineral haze, turning the underwater world into a place of layered radiance, not bright enough to erase the darkness, only enough to give it shape. And that is often the most beautiful kind of light, light that does not conquer shadow, only reveals it gently. Perhaps this is why buried worlds feel so calming, because they remove the horizon, they remove urgency, they place beauty not in distance, but in enclosure. Everything becomes more intimate, more inward, and yet still vast. An ocean can feel infinite even when sealed inside ice. A hidden chamber can feel larger than a desert if its darkness is deep enough. These worlds remind us that the cosmos is also a place of interior wonders, of concealed oceans, of beauty folded inside cold shells, of silent basins where light arrives only in fragments. So let yourself sink a little farther now, below the frozen crust, below the fractured blue ceiling. Let the submerged towers rise slowly out of the dark. Let bioluminescent currents drift between silent walls. Beyond the hidden oceans, the journey grows darker still. Now we leave not only the familiar worlds of Earth, now we leave the suns themselves. We enter the space between them, the long, cold dark where some planets wander alone. These are the rogue worlds, planets without a sunrise, worlds with no dawn, no morning sky, no star to anchor the horizon, only motion through interstellar night. On Earth, even darkness belongs to a star. Night is only the turning away from sunlight. But in deep interstellar space, darkness is different. It does not feel like the absence of day. It feels like a place of its own, vast, ancient, complete, and through that darkness, entire worlds may drift. Alone. Imagine a planet that was once part of a solar system, a world that circled a star for ages. And then, through the long, quiet mechanics of gravity, it was cast free, not destroyed, only released into deeper night. Now it travels without a sun, its path no longer a circle around light, but a solitary journey through the black between stars. There is something hauntingly beautiful about such a world, because it still remains a world, still round, still massive, still carrying weather, geology, ice, perhaps even hidden warmth. And yet the central thing we associate with planetary life, the sun overhead, is gone. What remains is shape without day, atmosphere without dawn, motion without morning. From a distance, a rogue world might appear only as a silhouette, a vast dark sphere outlined by the faintest blue or silver atmospheric glow. Around it, the stars would seem sharper than anywhere near a sunlit sky. Dense, steady, countless, galaxies visible with unusual clarity. Dust lanes stretched across the dark. The universe opened wide because nothing nearby is bright enough to conceal it. And below that star-filled infinity, the rogue world turns in silence. Some of these planets may be frozen at the surface, their atmospheres thin or collapsed, their plains covered in endless frost beneath a sky that never brightens. Frozen storms may rest across them like patterns on ancient stone. Ice cliffs may rise beneath constellations that never fade. But not every rogue world must be entirely dead on the outside. A thick atmosphere might trap internal heat. Cloud layers could still move slowly in the dark. There may be storms there, not storms lit by sunlight, but slow, immense circulations of cold and pressure. Weather sustained by the energy still sleeping inside the planet itself. And beneath the surface, there may still be warmth, hidden oceans, subterranean seas, pressure and chemistry continuing their patient work in sealed darkness. A rogue world could be cold beyond imagination on the outside, yet not empty within. That possibility gives such planets a strange emotional weight. They are lonely, but not simple, silent, but not necessarily lifeless in every sense. Imagine drifting above such a planet. Below you, frozen cloud bands curve along the horizon. Vast pale storms locked into slow motion across a dark atmosphere. Far above, the sky is overwhelming, not because of one brilliant sun, but because of the total presence of everything distant. Stars in impossible numbers, galaxies suspended like quiet islands of light. Nebulae so faint they seem like thoughts rather than objects. On a rogue planet, the sky might make us feel transparent, as if the usual shelter of a solar system had fallen away. And yet there is calm here too, a very deep calm, because nothing rushes on a rogue world. No sunrise approaches, no daylight expands across the land. The darkness remains, and over immense timescales, that constancy becomes a kind of peace. A rogue world does not awaken. It drifts. It does not wait for morning. It carries its own duration through the dark. Perhaps that is why such planets feel almost sacred in imagination. They embody endurance without witness. No warm star to announce them. No easy sky to make them beautiful. And yet they are beautiful precisely because they remain. Because even alone, a planet keeps its mountains, its atmosphere, its hidden seas, its turning silence. As we drift beside these wandering planets, we begin to understand another truth of the cosmos. That distance can become a kind of beauty, and solitude can become a form of light. Not light that brightens the eye, but light that deepens thought. So stay here a little longer. Let the stars gather above in uncountable silence. Let the dark curve of the planet turn beneath you. Beyond the rogue worlds, the journey changes once more. We return now to places that feel less like hidden oceans, less like abandoned night, and more like pure form, worlds shaped by reflection, by crystal, by frost, by mineral light. These are places built by light, ice, and silence. On Earth, beauty is often softened by life. Forests move, clouds gather, rivers cut through valleys. But there are worlds where beauty takes another form. Still, precise, almost ceremonial. Imagine a plain of mirror-like ice stretching to the horizon beneath a black sky. No trees, no water in motion, only silver light resting on frozen ground. Each ridge reflecting the faint glow of a distant planet, each crystalline edge catching pale blue and violet from an aurora moving soundlessly overhead. The world feels less like terrain and more like a thought held perfectly still. Some places in the cosmos may be covered in glass-like deserts, endless dunes hardened into reflective curves, polished by time, by abrasion, by the patient movement of mineral dust over ages too large to imagine. Under a strange sun, such a desert might glow with copper and pale gold. Under a white dwarf, it could shine in silver and blue. Under two distant suns, it might hold several kinds of light at once, warm on one face, cold on another, every dune becoming a sculpture written by illumination. There is something deeply calming about a world where shape and light become the whole language of the landscape. No movement distracts from them. The eye can rest in repetition, in line after line of crystalline ridge. In the way, a frozen surface reflects a sky too distant to warm it. Imagine a canyon carved not by rivers, but by fractures in a frozen moon. Its walls made of translucent mineral ice, blue in one moment, silver in the next, deep violet where the shadows gather. The light entering this canyon does not flood it. It filters, it glides, it settles on edges and disappears into depth. The floor below may shimmer like dark glass, and far above, the sky remains open and star-filled. A giant ringed planet hanging over the canyon like a silent witness. Such a place would feel less like geology and more like architecture, not because it was built, but because the universe has a way of arranging matter into forms that resemble intention. An arch of crystal, a staircase of ice ridges, a cathedral of frozen light inside a crater, a forest of luminous mineral spires standing beneath auroras. Beauty without purpose, and yet no less powerful for that. Some worlds may hold frozen forests, not forests of wood and leaf, but tall crystalline forms rising from the ground like trees translated into another language. Transparent trunks of mineral frost, branches of glass-like ice catching turquoise light, snow drifting between them in slow silver motion. Above, a giant planet glowing behind distant hills, and through the sky, moving curtains of pale green and violet light. What would it feel like to move through such a place? Only the visual silence of a world where every form seems paused at the edge of becoming. There may be valleys of pale frost where the ground sparkles not with warmth, but with the sharp clarity of extreme cold. Basins of frozen mist where light seems suspended in the air rather than falling through it. In such places, silence becomes visible. It gathers in the stillness of the ground, in the absence of erosion by water, in the way shadows remain undisturbed. The mind sees pattern and immediately imagines intention. But perhaps the deeper wonder is that intention is not necessary. The universe can create elegance without a designer, monuments without memory. And perhaps that is one of the quietest truths in all of this, that beauty in the cosmos does not always belong to life. Sometimes it belongs to pressure, to chemistry, to freezing temperatures, to the angle of a distant sun. As we pass through these worlds of frozen light and mineral silence, we begin to understand another truth of the cosmos, that beauty is not always hidden in motion. Sometimes it is found in what does not move, in what has remained untouched for ages, in what glows only because something distant touches it gently. So drift a little longer through these worlds built by light, ice, and silence. Let the mirror deserts curve beneath unfamiliar suns. Let the crystal canyons open under black, star-filled skies. Let the frozen forests glow beneath slow auroras. Because farther ahead, the journey will begin to turn inward once more. Beyond the crystal worlds, we arrive at a quieter thought. Not every beautiful place in the universe is waiting for us. Not every horizon is meant to be crossed. Not every world will ever feel the weight of a human step. Some places are simply too far, too cold, too deep in time. And yet, they remain beautiful, perhaps even more beautiful because of that distance. On Earth, we often connect beauty with nearness. A place becomes meaningful because it can be visited, touched, remembered by the body. But the cosmos asks something different. It asks whether beauty can still matter when it cannot be reached, when it will remain forever beyond roads, beyond ships, beyond lifetimes. Perhaps the answer is yes. Perhaps unreachable beauty is one of the purest forms of beauty the universe can offer. Imagine a world orbiting a dim star thousands of light years away. A planet with frozen cliffs and silver storms beneath a sky no human eye will ever see directly. Its mountains rise and erode. Its clouds gather and dissolve. Its long, silent nights continue. All without witness, no footsteps, no monuments, no names spoken into the air. And still, it is there, complete in itself. A whole landscape existing without the need to be known. There is something peaceful in that thought. That the universe does not depend on our arrival to become magnificent. That beauty is not waiting for permission. It does not need audience. It does not need memory. A black ocean on a distant moon remains a black ocean. A canyon of crystal beneath auroras remains a canyon of crystal. A rogue planet under galaxies remains a rogue planet, whether we reach it or only imagine it. Perhaps distance itself becomes part of the beauty. The fact that we may never stand there does not diminish the scene. It deepens it. It leaves the place untouched by familiarity, untouched by use, untouched by the small habits of human presence. There are worlds so distant that their light began traveling toward us long before any living person was born. By the time that light arrives, the world has already changed. Clouds have moved, ice has formed and broken, shadows have crossed planes no one will ever map. The image we receive is always old, always delayed, and yet that makes the beauty no less real, only more delicate, more ghost-like, more woven into time. Imagine an observatory drifting in deep space, its instruments open toward a distant system. Far away, a small world passes slowly across the face of its star. Only the faintest change in light reveals its presence. No mountains visible, no sea, no auroras, only a shadow. And yet within that shadow, the mind begins to build a world, a horizon, an atmosphere, a landscape under strange weather, a silence no one has entered. So much of cosmic beauty lives like this, half in light, half in imagination. There may be planets circling stars we will never reach in any practical age of humanity, worlds beyond meaningful travel, beyond generations, beyond the span of civilizations. Their surfaces may hold impossible deserts, methane rain, ice caverns, luminous clouds, but no ship may ever descend there. No human voice may ever speak beneath those skies. The distance itself may remain stronger than every dream of travel, and still. These worlds draw us, not because we expect to possess them, but because the mind is shaped by horizons it cannot close. Perhaps that is one reason the night sky has always felt sacred. It offers beauty without ownership, wonder without arrival. It reminds us that the largest part of reality will remain beyond our hands, and that this is not a failure, it is part of the gift. Unreachable worlds protect mystery. They preserve the feeling that existence is larger than any journey we can make. What does it mean to love a place you will never reach? Perhaps it means loving scale itself, loving distance, loving the fact that reality exceeds us. This kind of beauty asks for a different response. Not conquest, but humility. A willingness to remain outside, to look gently, to let the world stay distant and still be moved by it. There is rest in that, because the unreachable does not demand action. It does not ask to be solved tonight. It simply remains there, far off, patient, existing in its own weather, its own light, its own chronology. So rest here for a while, at the edge of what can be imagined, but not entered. Let the far planets remain small and bright in the deep. And now, at the end of this slow journey, even the last distant world begins to fall behind. The frozen moons, the black oceans, the strange suns, the twilight planets, the hidden cities beneath ice, the rogue worlds between the stars, the crystal deserts and silent forests of light. All of them remain somewhere behind us now, still turning, still glowing faintly in their own darkness. And we continue outward, not toward another shore, not toward another horizon, but into the widening calm beyond the last world. There is something different about this final part of the journey. Earlier, every chapter offered a surface, a sky, a coastline, a ridge of ice, a band of cloud, a distant ringed planet above a silent plain. There was always some form to hold the eye, but now form begins to loosen. The mind no longer rests on terrain. It rests on distance itself, on starlight, on the black between one quiet thing and another. Imagine the final world receding behind you. Its glow diminishes. Its atmosphere fades into a small edge of silver. Its mountains and seas and frozen valleys disappear into memory. Nothing dramatic happens. The world simply becomes smaller, then gentler, then almost impossible to distinguish from the surrounding stars. This is how most things leave us in the universe, not suddenly, but slowly enough that the mind has time to grow quiet around their absence. Ahead now, there is no planet to approach, no city hidden below ice, no canyon holding permanent twilight. Only a vastness so open that it no longer feels empty. It feels patient, as if the space between worlds were not a gap, but a form of rest. Here, starlight seems older, not because it changes, but because nothing nearby competes with it. Each star keeps its place in silence. Each faint cloud of nebula hangs like a memory, too large for language. Far galaxies remain suspended at impossible distances, their light arriving as a small softness in the dark. And through all of it, there is no urgency, no weather of the familiar kind, no turning coastlines, no rising suns, only drift, only the calm continuation of motion through a universe that does not need to hurry. Perhaps this is the deepest quiet of all, not the silence of a frozen moon, not the silence beneath an ocean of ice, not even the silence of a rogue planet with no dawn, but the silence that remains when all worlds have become distant, when there is nothing left to approach and nothing left to leave behind, only the long softness of distance itself. What does the mind do here? Perhaps it stops reaching outward with the same intensity. Perhaps it relaxes, not because there is nothing to wonder at, but because wonder itself has become gentle. No longer a question, only a spaciousness, a kind of peaceful attention without demand. Imagine turning once more to look back. Far away now, there is no single world visible, only regions of memory, a faint idea of rings, of ice reflecting blue light, of black waves under amber haze, of crystal ridges beneath auroras, of a dim red star over a horizon that never changed. They no longer appear as separate places. They gather into one long feeling, one sleep-like procession of worlds no human has ever stood upon. There is peace in not arriving, peace in allowing the final scene to remain open. The universe does not close. It continues, beyond the last visible world, beyond the last remembered light. And still, it remains calm. If you listen inwardly now, there is almost nothing to hold on to except rhythm. The rhythm of drifting, the rhythm of breath, the rhythm of thought loosening its edges. This is where the journey was always leading, not only through frozen landscapes and unreachable planets, but toward this state, a place in the mind that resembles deep space, wide, dark, gentle, without pressure, without noise. Above you, stars. Below you, stars. Ahead and behind, stars. Ancient points of light suspended in an ocean with no shore. And somewhere among them, all the worlds we passed continue their turning. Still beautiful, still distant, still themselves. So let the last world disappear completely now. Let the final horizon dissolve into the greater dark. Let the memory of ice, ocean, crystal, and twilight become lighter and lighter until only the feeling remains. A calm drift through vastness, a quiet passage among unreachable lights. There is nowhere else to go now, and that too is peaceful. Only this, only the great stillness beyond the last world, only starlight crossing the dark. So drift here as long as you like. Let the stars remain where they are. Let the distances stay open, and if sleep is near now, let it come gently. The journey is complete, the worlds remain, and all around you now there is only quiet, only depth, only space, and the peaceful dark going on. There is nowhere else to go now.